A 21-point defeat at the hands of the Kansas City Chiefs. Are we panicking? Are the questions about Kyle Shanahan maybe getting louder, maybe not? I don't know. And Brock Purdy makes NFL history. We're going to bring back, say something positive about the 49ers as well. New Spur Red Option Podcast starts now.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners. Sprint Ride Option Podcast. Oh my goodness. As the title says, Welp, that happened. The 49ers, they lose to the Kansas City Chiefs by 21 points yesterday. You are listening to the New Sprint Ride Option Podcast. Should introduce ourselves, huh, Jason? I am Andrew Pasquini, joined as always by the beautiful Jason Aponte. Jason, how are you doing on this lovely Monday afternoon? Football season confirmed. How you doing today?
Hey, look, it's Monday. The 49ers, had a bad game on Sunday, but at least in Jason Aponte's world, he can turn back to the Yankees. Oh, wait, he can't. So things are just going swimming. But yeah, shout out to everybody in here. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification bell for more content coming down the pipeline.
Well, Jason, you are the smartest man, I think, in all of 49ers and Yankees Twitter, because you've been saying on this podcast since May that, yeah, the Yankees are great and all. It's not going to matter. They're going to lose to the Astros in the playoffs anyways. So you've protected. Nobody can come at Jason. He's been telling us what was going to happen for 6 months now. So you can't come at Jason for the Yankees losing that series. He told you.
And it's all well and good to know that your team's going to lose. It still sucks terribly to get swept, But, yeah, hey, you know what? That gives me more time to focus on football. One more week after this, and then we get a bye week, which it seems like it's right at the right time. But, yeah, I guess we should talk about Sunday, huh?
Yeah, so as we mentioned at the top, the 49ers lose 44-23. I looked back at it. It was the fifth loss in the Kyle Shanahan era of 21 points or more. The first since the famous Brian Allen game in 2020 against the Miami Dolphins.
That was a fun game.
That was a fun. I think that might have been the first time we got spicy Aponte. That might have been the first time we got it. If we're going back to 2020, maybe.
Yeah. You know what's funny is when we first started this, I would just say, hey, they lost and everything. And then more as the pressure grew on the team and they started to play well, or it was after 2019. Yeah, I did think that I was cracking under the pressure a little bit, man. Yeah.
Well, we have fun now when they get blown out. We're going to have a nice loose episode today.
I got it out of my system yesterday.
Lost. Yeah, we got it out of our system. It was the I don't know if you heard this, Jason, but we both write for NinersNation.com, and there was definitely a little bit of like, man, I got to write about this. Like I gotta talk about that, and I feel like I got a lot of the negativity out in the article. So we're feeling good right now about it all. Do we want to start at the quarterback position once again? That seems to be the thing. Do you want to start somewhere else today? As long as we cover all the positions, I don't think it matters where we start.
Let's leave that last. Let's talk about this defense, which I think was a little bit more of a shocker to me than the offense at this point. I mean, you knew that the Chiefs were going to score points, but that performance just does not sit right in my soul. And yes, there's reasons for it, and it's not excuses. There's context that needs to be drawn, and we're gonna do that right now. But yeah, let's start with the defense, Andrew.
All right, we'll start with the defense. So I want to start with one of the pieces of context that I'm going to throw in. They played the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chiefs do this. This is what they do. They put up points, and I said it in our group chat earlier. Would you be surprised if hypothetically, if I had told you the Chiefs beat the Bills 44-23, would you be surprised? And I don't think anybody would be surprised because the Chiefs can do this every week. They can put these points. I don't care if Tyreek Hill isn't there anymore. As long as Patrick Mahomes is there, this is what the Chiefs can do. Now, with the caveat being said, I don't know how many teams the 49ers defense was going to stop yesterday because they were not good all around. And I want to start with the line because I've been working on this take and I think now is the time to talk about it. Eric Armstead on the inside is what Nick Bosa is to the outside, where this team is significantly different without him. Kansas City, 21 carries, 112 yards, second week in a row that the Niners have been, and obviously we'll get to Mahomes in the passing, but this is the second week in a row the Niners defense has been absolutely torched on the ground. And I don't think it's a coincidence that Eric Armstead's been out of these 2 games. The defense wasn't stopping anybody. They didn't help themselves at all against the run. So I guess that's where we'll start, is the defensive line definitely wasn't great yesterday, and it wasn't a good feeling.
Right. And, look, Nick Bosa clearly wasn't 100%, and we'll get to the secondary and those guys and everything. But, yeah, it was a little disappointing to see that the 49ers have trouble getting home constantly. And it seems like when they don't, even regardless of who's back there, you can't cover for so long. It's harder and harder to beat these guys, especially when it's Patrick Mahomes. Again, losing to the Chiefs, there's no sin with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But it's just, at this point, losing in this fashion is a little bit disheartening. And I do think that a lot of this has to do, again, with some undisciplined play. Charles Omenihu extended a drive on 3rd down. We'll talk about special teams. There was another one, a blunder that put them out of field goal range. And I want to dive into that entire sequence. Like, can we just section that part off so we can talk about how insane that entire sequence was right before the half?
Okay, yes, we will dive into that sequence, absolutely, because that was an interesting sequence.
So, look, there's still context that needs to be thrown out there. It seemed like guys weren't 100%. But, yeah, it was a little disappointing to see, the 49ers tried to send a little bit of pressure. Didn't really work. Front four wasn't getting there. But that's what happens if you give Mahomes enough time. If you give Andy Reid, who, let's also give some credit to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid. Andy Reid put on a masterclass. I'm sorry. I think this is the first time that we have been doing this podcast, as long as DeMeco Ryans has been the defensive coordinator, that we can say DeMeco Ryans was thoroughly outcoached and just taken to the shed. And there's no shame in that, because Andy Reid is very good at what he does. So, again, in context, if we're just talking about this defensive line, guys weren't exactly healthy. They weren't getting home. That's the type of things that'll happen, especially against an offense like this. So, yeah, that part was a little disheartening, because you kind of set your watch to the pressure one way or another, but it just didn't happen in this game.
And it wasn't necessary, because I felt like the second half, the pass rush got a little bit better. They were creating more pressure. PFF credited the 49ers as a whole with 14 pressures. And honestly, that number feels a little high, because I feel like I watched the game and I don't know if they got pressure 14 times, but hey, I'll run with the number. I think the issue more so is 14 pressures, 1 sack, because Mahomes, if you don't finish him off, he's going to hurt you. And that's what he did more often than he did not. And Andy Reid, you mentioned Andy Reid, man. You remember a couple of years ago when we were talking about, well, not we were, because we didn't have a podcast, but Niner fans, kind of the lack of tackling. The Niners were a really bad tackling team. That's gone away because of how aggressive DeMeco Ryans is and his philosophy on the aggressiveness. And Andy Reid took advantage of that all game. The end arounds, that every time it was Nick Bosa over committing to the quarterback, things like that. Like, not things necessarily I blame Bosa for, because that's his job to go after the quarterback. I see a lot of people mentioning it, so that's where I'm going to go to. The 3rd and 20 screen pass where they got 35 yards on the very next play was a touchdown. That was, I think they mentioned that it was Hufanga who was a little too aggressive on that play that allowed that play. And shout out Jerick McKinnon, I guess, because that's the guy who made that play.
And people wanted to say it wasn't his revenge game.
It wasn't his revenge game, yeah. But then also, too, the next drive as well, 3rd and 11. Mooney Ward, who I think, if we want to talk about guys who weren't 100% ready, Mooney Ward, maybe another one of them, gets torched. I believe it was by Valdez-Scantling on a 54-yard reception on 3rd and 11. So the Niners' 3rd down defense specifically was bad. I think the Chiefs finished 6 for 9 on 3rd downs. Niners just couldn't stop them on 3rd downs either. And that's something that I think, if anything, the Robert Saleh defense, the biggest issue was he was too conservative, not aggressive enough in some situations. I think we're at a point where we could loudly speak about the biggest issue with DeMeco Ryans defense is getting off the field. This is the 2nd week in a row that they've been torched on 3rd downs. And even if you think back last year, the Tennessee game, that was a big issue. They couldn't get off the field against them as well. This is easily the worst game we've seen by the defense. And as I said, I want to give the Chiefs some credit. They are very good on offense. They're a very good offensive powerhouse. They're the best offensive team. But at some point, we just got to admit the Niners defense was very bad yesterday, and it's a very bad team to be bad against.
Yeah, and 2 things stood out, really. The Chiefs went right at Nick Bosa, and that's something that people have shied away from doing. I wonder if that's something that may continue from other teams, where using his aggressiveness against him a little bit was the game plan. And again, credit Andy Reid, man, and that game plan. They were very smart to do that. Again, I still would say that he wasn't his explosive self, but it's kind of shocking to see them go right at Nick Bosa and have that kind of success. So yeah, you have to give them credit 100%. And yeah, the tackling thing is something that's an issue in this game. It's literally everybody from the top to the bottom, but the third down thing's been happening all year.
Yeah.
Even when this team was dominant, but on defense, the third down thing just got swept under the rug because they weren't allowing points. But they've had an issue getting off the field on third down, and 3rd and 20, 3rd and 15 happened 2 times in this game. Especially there were critical junctures. It's the 3rd and 20 didn't really bother them because they scored a touchdown right after that. I'm sorry, I don't mean to say that. Whatever, yeah. But it's something that has been there. Just something wasn't spoke about because the defense was playing lights out. So yeah, I mean that has been a problem all year for this team. Just this was the game where you couldn't have that happen.
Yeah, and you mentioned the penalties. The defense had another situation where 2 penalties on third downs. This is the second game on the season where the Niners have been called for 10 or more penalties. The first being Chicago week 1, which was also a loss. The Niners, I believe I saw the stat, are top 5 for most penalties per game. They're committing a lot of penalties. That never helps. And it just felt like everything that could have gone wrong for the Niners this game went wrong, including the offense, right? Jimmy Garoppolo, and we'll get to Garoppolo. Garoppolo wasn't perfect. That played a part of it. But really, I think when you look at it, it was the defense and it was the penalties. And I know the penalties were just as much an offensive problem because there was a lot of penalties on the offense as well. But I guess the best way to put it is the Niners played the perfect game if they were trying to lose by 3 scores with the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, they played it perfectly.
If you play like that, then that's going to be the result, especially when it's somebody that'll make you pay in that fashion. But yeah, starting with the defensive line, it was a masterful game plan by Andy Reid. I mean, he had the defense in a blender all game. That's why he's one of the best, if not the best, when it comes to offensive game planning.
Yeah, so as we said, the pass rush couldn't get it done. They got stopped against the run, or they couldn't stop the run. Talanoa Hufanga had an interception. There's a bright spot. Say something positive about the Niners in that game. Hufanga with another interception. It was on the Chiefs' first drive of the game. Niners got a touchdown out of it, an early 10-0 lead. Other than that, I don't know. What other positives do you have about the defense yesterday? Because there wasn't a ton.
There's not that many injuries. I mean, Dre Greenlaw has a calf. He's day to day. We all have calves. I think that's the one we're going to run with now. And everybody else relatively got out of this game unscathed. Probably will be at a higher level of functioning next week. So there's positive.
But perfect. Is that all we had on the defense? Because I think that's
that was just defensive line. We didn't go linebacker. Yeah, we didn't go linebacker. Right. We didn't go secondary.
Linebackers: Dre Greenlaw, Fred Warner. Again, to me, linebacker is a tough position to watch in terms of the games. I think linebacker is the position of all 22, in my opinion. To me, the way I look at it is Kansas City ran the ball pretty well. That tells me the linebackers didn't have a particularly great game. That's my simple way of looking at it. But Jason, I know you watch it a little closer than I do in terms of linebackers. What were your thoughts on Warner and Greenlaw?
God, I can't wait for this podcast to be over so we don't have to talk about watching this tape, because if you want to show this tape to teams on how not to play, that's what you would use it for. Other than that, you should set it on fire or bury it or throw it into the bottom of a river so nobody else can watch it. But yeah, over aggressiveness used against them, moving in the wrong direction, missed tackles. Dre Greenlaw had him. Fred wasn't particularly very good in this game, but you have to tip your cap sometimes. Everybody's always looking for something to blame, and sure, there's blame every single facet of this team. Blame the coaching, all of it. Took an entire team to be as shitty as they were on Sunday. So let's just say that it was a team effort. But particularly nothing that really stood out when it comes to the linebackers. But again, not anybody on defense really had a really too good of a game. So I mean, it's hard to just pile on anybody. I think that's what's refreshing about this episode. Here's something positive: we are not going to be singling out one person, because guess what? They all were bad. So
they all kind of stunk. Yeah,
and we can all point at all of them. I mean, Hufanga missed on tackles. They missed a ton of them. So I think that's kind of refreshing. This isn't going to be a bash one player or a bash one facet of the game. I think it was all shitty. So that's kind of refreshing, right?
We're just going to be mean to everybody. Yeah. That's it. Hey, you can't be mean if you're just mean to everybody, right?
Yeah.
So that really, as I said, linebackers. It would be easier for me to praise them if Kansas City didn't run the ball down the Niners' throat the whole game. they weren't really a factor this game, and Fred Warner Greenlaw usually consistent, especially this season. I think maybe the takeaway is maybe having Aziz Al-Shaair could change things a little bit just to get a third guy out there. Nothing against Axel -3. Hey, Axel, listen. I this is the first, because usually like I could BS 3 stars when they win.
I don't even know if I can. Oh, well, I've got one.
I got one off the top of my head, but today I definitely had to brainstorm. Like I had to do some crunching of numbers.
Yeah.
And I think I got a 3 stars.
I think I have two. You know what? I do have 3, and one of them is going to shock everybody.
Oh, okay. Let's see it. Yeah. So I guess that's it for the linebackers. Secondary, this was going to be a tricky one, I think, regardless. If Mooney Ward was going to play, I think it was in the writing that he wasn't going to be 100%, because the comparison they had all week was this is like Bosa the week before, where he kind of ramped up at the same time. The difference is Bosa didn't play. Ward did. He gets targeted 6 times, allows 6 receptions for 104 yards. The big one being the Marquez Valdez-Scantling 54-yard reception.
On 3rd and 15.
Was it?
On 3rd and 15.
On 3rd and 15, yeah, a 3rd and long as well, specifically, if we're going that deep. And then on top of that, you're missing Emmanuel Moseley, which we knew that going into it. So now it's Diamador Lenore. Diamador Lenore goes down with an injury. So now we step in with Samuel Womack. And then Mooney Ward goes down with an injury. And then I guess this is a little targeting, if we're being honest.
Ambry Thomas.
Nothing well is happening for your secondary if Ambry Thomas is playing snaps. And that's just a reality. He was only targeted once, 19 yards against Juju Smith-Schuster, I believe.
But they went right at him.
They went right at him. And I think that's kind of the point, is this cornerback group is very, very good. I think we've established it. Obviously, Emmanuel Moseley being gone does not help. That obviously. But I think we need to start getting into the thought of, if you see number 20 on the field for the 49ers secondary, something has gone horribly, horribly wrong. And that's what happened yesterday.
Yeah. Well, look, this is how we change it from sounding like we're being harsh on Ambry.
Yes.
Anyone's cornerback 4 or 5 playing is usually not a good thing, right?
Yes.
That's not a good thing. Not many teams, I'm going to actually say it, unless somebody can name another team, 0 teams have a cornerback 4 or 5 that they're ready to throw out there and say, we're confident. That's why they're the cornerback 4 and 5, okay? So I don't want to pile on Ambry. But I do think that it's very telling that even down the stretch with the way that Ambry had played, going into this season, you would only figure that would increase and he's regressed. I mean, every single day that I was at training camp, and even the one day that you were there, Andrew, we had the running joke of, if someone got beat on one-on-ones, everyone would look around and say who was in coverage, and we would all just look at each other and say, well, it's Ambry. And unfortunately, that's just the way it goes. He was a 3rd-round pick, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. That's why when you talk about like what was given for Christian McCaffrey, sometimes 3rd-round picks are Fred Warner, sometimes 3rd-round picks are Ambry Thomas. And it literally is what it is at this point. But yeah, I'm not going to pile on him too much, because he is in a position where he's the cornerback 4 or 5, and usually, and I'm gonna one more time double down on that. 32 teams don't have a cornerback 4 that really scares you. So again, it is what it is, but the injuries were starting to pile up. It seemed like Mooney Ward was in and out of the game, and it just felt like it was hard for him to establish a rhythm. He felt a little stiff. Definitely wasn't 100%. You can say that about many people that were in this game, but we're going to get to the other positions where guys came back, where I could say that Jimmy Ward coming back didn't look like his normal self. I mean, Have you seen Jimmy Ward get torched like that? Like, that never really happens, ever. So again, everybody was kind of getting back at the right time, kind of a perfect storm against an offense that was ready to exploit all of these things and a quarterback that could. So yeah, it is what it is. I have a far better understanding and feeling of the defense now, and I have way more confidence that they'll be able to bounce back, as opposed to when we flip the switch to the offense, which is much more concerning.
Yeah, and I think part of my prediction on Friday was, I trust the Niners defense to be good against the Chiefs offense more than I trust the Chiefs defense to be good against the Niners offense. And that's part of the reason why I picked the Niners to win. And then just the exact opposite happened. The Niners defense had no answer. And like it's not even attacking on to Ambry Thomas. And like you mentioned, Jimmy Ward, without saying the names, because I guess I could say the names. per PFF, if we just break up the individual stats for the Niners, just going down 6 targets, 6 receptions were allowed. Mooney Ward. 6 targets, 6 receptions allowed. Jimmy Ward. 6 targets, 4 receptions allowed. Gibson. 4 targets, 3 receptions allowed. Lenore. Like, the trend is not a lot of stops were happening. They were getting beat. The only corner or secondary player who didn't allow a target or reception was Talanoa Hufanga, and he was targeted once against Travis Kelce. And I guess maybe say something positive about the 49ers defense. Never mind, Travis Kelce felt like he had a bad game, but he's so good. He's so good. 6 for 98 with no touchdowns feels like a bad game. So I take that back. Not to say something positive because they got torched by Kelce as well.
Well, all right. What depends on perspective. The 49ers didn't give up 100 yards to Travis Kelce.
Yeah, there we go. Say something positive.
Positive.
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, the secondary as a whole was bad, just like the linebackers weren't great, just like the pass rush wasn't great, just like the run stopping wasn't great.
Just like D'Amico wasn't great in this one either. Like,
exactly.
It's okay. It's okay. All right, guys, real quick. I just want to run off on a little tangent. It's okay to say D'Amico got a little worked in this game. That doesn't mean that D'Amico's bad at his job. No. It happens. It's a learning curve. I remember last year when I so famously ended the season after the Arizona game. D'Amico didn't particularly have a good game, but he's evolved. Sometimes it happens, and D'Amico is still going to be a head coach next season. There's nothing to be alarmed about. Just was shocking to see him get thoroughly outcoached in that way.
Yeah, exactly. And once again, I do want to throw in the caveat that I feel like some people are forgetting because I see people mentioning the Niners lost by 21 and the defense looked garbage. The context of the team they played cannot be forgotten. They played the Kansas City Chiefs, the best offense in the NFL.
Right.
This will happen. It's not going to happen against the Panthers. It's not going to happen against bad offenses. But when they play, I don't know, let's say the Buccaneers turn it around by the time they play each other. It's fully possible that the Buccaneers do this as well, not because the Niners defense is bad. It's because the Buccaneers offense has that much firepower type thing.
And again, this doesn't mean the season's over. And again, losing to the Kansas City Chiefs isn't a sin. It's not a problem. That's because they're very good, right? But in this fashion, and again, and now that we're going to switch it over to the offense, we're going to be in 7 weeks of talking about the same thing: undisciplined play, penalties, not executing, just sloppy play overall. It's like, again, at what point are you what you are? And now we are in week 7. That's a large sample size. So I guess this is the perfect time to turn it into the offense.
Yeah, let's turn it over to the offense. And real quick, before we do, hey, Sprint Right Option Podcast, wherever you get your podcast, you can download it there. If you have not subscribed to Jason Aponte's YouTube channel, I heard per sources over 7,000 subscribers, along with his 10,000 Twitter followers. Make sure to subscribe to this YouTube channel.
And we're getting close to 7.1, man. Shout out to you guys. Appreciate you guys. I mean, look, you know, this feels like a bit of a lounge conversation. I got my adult beverage. You know, I got water. Again, I was able to get most of my feelings out yesterday angrily on my post-game show in Twitter Spaces, which I'm not exactly very proud of. But yeah, I mean, look, after watching the tape, I'm at peace with it. I made my peace, and I'm just here to discuss it with you guys and try to help you guys through it.
All right, let's segue to the offense here because you specifically asked about this. The Niners get the ball with 7:05 left in the second quarter, down 1 point. They go on an 8-play drive. Luis, thank you for the donation. Time to make the switch to soccer or give SF 3 more games. World Cup starts in a month. Just saying. I'm a Wolves fan, and Wolves is about to get relegated to Championship League. So that's all bad. I don't even have soccer to lean back on.
Luis, let me ask you a question. Streets is saying that the World Cup is going to be in Qatar, right? Is that where it's going to be?
Okay. That's where it is, and why it's in November this year.
Streets are saying that there is no alcohol served at the World Cup at all. Oh my goodness! For someone who is not a soccer enthusiast, I would need a copious amount of alcohol to cope with it.
Jason knows when he drops words.
I would need a copious amount of alcohol to understand the game and to be as excited. No, that's a good environment. I'm just joking. But yeah, I found that a little bit shocking.
Did you hear that they're forcing people who go to the games to download a tracking app on their phone? That's fun. Maybe FIFA should be less corrupt and not. Anyways, we don't need to dive into that whole conversation.
And NBN Chan, I know Jason had a bad Yankees lost, Niners. Hey. Oh, man. Hey, is what it is, man. I am glutton for punishment. I am in a toxic-ass relationship with the Yankees and the 49ers. They do just enough to reel me back in, and then they just break my heart just a little bit. So
nobody said sorry about Wolves out shooting Leicester City yesterday 21-5 and losing 4-0. Rep the Bay, my guy really watched the Niners get smacked in embarrassing than out. Yeah.
Hey, look, y'all deserve to cook me. I don't care. That's fine. Hey, listen, again, I made peace with that. Yesterday, what I did after that, and real quick, we need to get into the offense because we had people complaining that we even dared to talk about something different than something that we want to talk about on our own show.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what, man? I'm not even going to do it. I'm not even going to watch the game because I don't care. They're going to lose, right? And they went up 3-0. And I was like, hey, maybe there's a method to my madness. Maybe, I was like, I'm going to go to the store. And then I come back and it's 3-3. And I was like, I was right. I made the right decision.
The messed up double play was the most obvious thing that was ever going to happen in that situation.
That's the worst thing I've ever seen in my life.
All right, so segue to the offense here. We'll get to the little wonky part of the game. 7:05 left in the first half. The Niners get the ball at their own 14-yard line. The Niners put together a decent drive. They get into Kansas City territory, and they are lining up for a 49-yard field goal when Jalen Moore gets called for a false start. And it sounds really bad because instead of a 49-yard field goal attempt, the Niners opt to not try a 54-yard field goal, and they opt to punt the ball down 1 point. Mitch Wishnowsky hits, I think it was a knuckle punt for a muff, to which I sarcastically tweeted to Jason, cry at Jason Aponte, because I was having fun, feeling good, expecting the Niners to put the ball into the end zone 12 yards away. And then my brain broke because, Jason, I really like to say, you know what I like to call Jimmy Garoppolo's confusing throws, right? No throws. That was a level of throw that no is not high enough. The joke I made, because I was talking to my friend about it, he said that was a 50-50 ball. Why is he throwing up a 50-50 ball? And I responded with, you're being too nice. That was a 75-25 ball with the Chiefs player being the 75%.
To Ray McLeod, right?
I think it was Kittle and it was McLeod, and Garoppolo threw it perfectly between the two of them.
I think officially it goes down as intended for George Kittle.
It was, ESPN has intended for Kittle.
Yes.
And it gets intercepted. The Chiefs get the ball with 1:16 left. They walk down the field. They get to San Francisco's 21-yard line. They get to San Francisco's 6-yard line, score a touchdown on a 3rd and 5, but it's called back on a Jerick McKinnon low block. So they attempt a field goal with 8 seconds left on a 3rd and 20, which I was surprised by. I thought maybe they'd take one shot. I think 8 seconds is enough time to take a shot.
Oh, yeah.
They opt for a field goal, which Harrison Butker misses. Mm-hmm. So all that happened for nothing.
Right.
It resulted in nothing. The muff punt led to an interception, which led to nothing, and no harm, no foul. Mm-hmm. But that's the transition to the quarterback position. Jimmy Garoppolo's numbers say one thing: 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 303 yards. He wasn't good enough to win this game. And that's, in my mind, the issue.
Before we get to that, because we have to pick positional groups. We're not just talking about the offense as a whole. Before we get to that,
I want to start a quarterback. Where do you want to start?
No. I want to dig deeper into this sequence.
Let's do the sequence. Yes.
Okay. So Andrew sarcastically and a bunch of people get worked. Wishnowsky, knuckle punt. Okay, Mitch Wishnowsky. If it is truly true that you can force people to muff your punts, why are you not doing this every single time? That's why I call absolute bullshit on that. Okay. That just means Sky Moore was the only guy trying to win the game for the 49ers. He allowed that ball to bounce off, and Hufanga got it, and he muffed the punt. But if Mitch Wishnowsky has this punt that he can make people fumble, why are you not doing it every single time?
What was it? It's like, you remember Daisuke Matsuzaka with the Red Sox, and he had the gyro ball, and people are like, I don't think that actually exists. Maybe the knuckle punt is the gyro ball.
Right. Thank you for the donation, Tobin. Could missing the playoffs be a blessing long term? Not with this team, I don't think, Tobin.
We'll talk about the playoffs.
There's no draft picks. No. There's no draft picks to game. So all right. So I thank you for the donation. All right, but now let's talk about real like analysis. Okay. So for everybody that's like calling out play calling, and this is going to be my pushback, especially on that interception. And I am not here to discuss Jimmy Garoppolo and talk about him. I guess we should just all the way transition right to quarterback, right? Because we should just talk about him right now at this point after I get through this. What happens here is this. I am at peace with who Jimmy Garoppolo is because I know exactly who Jimmy Garoppolo is. So I don't get mad anymore when things like that happen. Okay. The problem is this. You cannot blame play calling on the fact that there was an open man right there for him to throw the ball. And to make it worse, it was literally the same play that he had hit the same person on with the same blitz in his face in 2019 against Arizona. So what does that boil down to? Kyle Shanahan gives you the answers in every single play call. What the problem is, and what you can probably push back on Kyle Shanahan and say about Kyle Shanahan is Jimmy Garoppolo can't do anything pre-snap as in terms of like when you notice, because the Chiefs tip their hand. It is completely right there. All of them are showing you cover zero blitz. And you beat it in Arizona. You beat it. You beat it against Arizona. You got it to Jeff Wilson. Jeff Wilson walked right in for a touchdown. I know you guys remember that. But pre-snap, he does not notice that. And he, instead of alertly getting the ball to the guy who that rusher was coming from, he was supposed to be covering Jeff Wilson, he throws that up. So I don't get mad anymore when Jimmy Garoppolo does that because I'm well aware of that. And I think one other thing that I want to say about this offense is this offense was supposed to be a strong departure from the offense that you saw last year, which was helmed by Jimmy Garoppolo. And I think people are underestimating a little bit how hard it is to go back to that offense when you've done an entire offseason and training camp of, hey, man, we're going to have this dynamic quarterback. We're going to run the ball this way. We're going to move the ball this way. There's guys here that have done it. Trent's done it. Mike McGlinchey's done it. Burford hasn't. Banks hasn't. Brendel hasn't. So you don't know like what they can do. And I don't think it's as easy as all that of just getting right back into it. It is not like riding a bicycle. But that interception didn't bother me as much as I think that I probably have a problem with Kyle Shanahan at this point, still putting it in the hands of Jimmy Garoppolo to make those pre-snap reads when he just does not. Yeah. And that's so I don't blame the play call because the answer is in the play call. It's always there. Kyle has the answer in every single play call for whatever they're showing. If they're blitzing, there's a guy underneath. If they're not, and there's a guy up top, you take the shot, right? Like it's all there. But I do think that there is a bit of like, Kyle, this guy does not understand. Remember when the Rams, when Jared Goff was there?
Yes.
And Sean McVay would talk all the way until the mic cut off, and he would tell him, hey, man, look at this, look at here, look at here. Like Sean McVay was on go, right? Like Sean McVay was the quarterback when Jared Goff was there. It might have to be a little bit more of that from Kyle. Like, hey, man, look over here. Like, look at what they're bringing. Like, it was as obvious of a blitz as there was. So the interception happens. I don't feel as bad, but I am not here to, like, there's so many people, well, Kyle's play calling. There's still guys running wide open. It's still all there, right? So it's not Kyle at this point, right? Like, it's just, it's not. There's other things we can blame Kyle for.
Yeah.
Undisciplined play, other things. Like, Kyle's not escaping criticism. Like, we'll get to it. But I just don't think that play calling was one.
Yeah, and I got a big criticism on Kyle Shanahan in this game as well that I don't think is necessarily fair to him. So I'll be honest with that. Mm-hmm. But the thing is with the conversation of Jimmy Garoppolo versus Kyle Shanahan is what bothers me with this argument of who's to blame is it feels like it switches every week. Is when Jimmy has a bad game, it's on Jimmy. But like last week where Jimmy's fine, it's on Kyle. And to me, there needs to be a consistent blame. And I tend to lean on the quarterback that the 49ers have been trying to get rid of for the last 3 seasons being more the blame than Kyle. So that's my thing. Because like Kyle Shanahan drew up a play where if there's a zero blitz coming, you have Jeff Wilson. Kyle Shanahan is not the one who's throwing it off of his back foot to nobody. Like at that point, what's Kyle Shanahan supposed to do? So that's my thing. The other thing as well is the reason that the interception hurt the most to me is it was so obvious it was coming, and I don't know why. I was sitting with my friend. I was watching the game with my friend who's the Dolphins fan, and I said before that snap, an interception's coming here. I don't know how. I don't know why.
So it's you.
Coming.
So
it was my
it.
fault. Well, you want to hear something even scarier? I may have said the same thing about a safety coming up, and a safety may have happened. I know but that's kind of the scary thing is it's almost gotten predictable with Garoppolo, where I'm sitting on my couch in Sacramento, California, and I'm able to tell a Dolphins fan who hasn't watched much of the Niners, like, just the feel of what Jimmy Garoppolo is, this is what's going to happen, and then have that exact thing happen. And it wasn't even just the interception was a bad throw, something that goes beyond no throws to where I don't even know where I'm. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, Jesse. I ruined these games. I should stop thinking during these games.
Yeah, like guys, like at this point, I would boycott. I would boycott this podcast at this point. My goodness, man.
Yeah, that's my bad. I'm very negative, and I'm sorry I gatekeep things.
It's not negative. It's stop
spoiling. Stop calling bad things,
and stop putting bad energy in the air, man. Like, oh my goodness, you can think it. You don't gotta say it.
Next time they're at the 5-yard line, I'll say he's gonna hit a beautiful pass to Debo. Things like that. No, I think the problem is with that interception is the situation of it, because the Niners, to go from catching a bad break of a Jalen Moore false start on a field goal attempt to saying, well, shit, we're out of points now, we're going to kick this punt, to then be said, oh, we have the ball at the 12-yard line against Kansas City.
Before the half
to go up, ideally 6 points. And Jimmy Garoppolo throws a ball that, as I said, I don't even describe it as a no throw. It's in a category of its own that I don't even have a name for.
Yeah.
And then to follow it up with what the second half was for him, and the safety to me. I asked Rich this, and I agree with Rich, is yes, it's 50-50. Trent got beat. Like, let's be honest. Trent got beat like a
Trent was 100%.
Trent was not 100%. But my issue is a 5-step drop out of shotgun at the own 5-yard line to put yourself 2 yards into the end zone, first of all. And second, he was sacked 6 yards into the end zone. Why are you retreating and running to your right and not feeling that pressure when you know you can't be tackled in the end zone, or else you lose the ball and give up points? At least move forward, right?
Well, the other thing is,
and that's where I get a little lost with the Jimmy Garoppolo decision making, because it's it's a weird choice.
The other thing is, again, and we can get off of this. I just wanted to deep dive that a little bit more.
Yes.
The football IQ. Yes. Where's your clock? Where's your clock?
Exactly.
Like on the play before, Clark sacked you. He beat. Where's the clock? Where is it? And why is it a surprise that he's on your back?
Yes.
Why is it that you haven't gotten the ball out knowing where you are right now at this point? Like, that's
why are you rolling backwards in the end zone? You're not helping yourself. Yeah. So that's my thing. I don't want to turn this into a beat up on Garoppolo, because he has been.
Say something positive.
Say something positive. I'll say something positive about the quarterback position. Brock Purdy made NFL history yesterday.
Okay.
First ever Mr. Irrelevant to complete a pass in NFL history.
Cool. I made a funny joke.
I said something positive.
You did. I made a funny joke about Brock Purdy, because I got into it on my post-game show, and people were saying, I want to see Brock Purdy. No, I don't, man. Because he literally threw a red zone interception, and Jimmy was like, hey, man, ain't just me. Ain't just me.
Listen, let's not meme ourselves into a Nick Mullins situation.
What Purdy is a more mobile Jimmy Garoppolo.
Yeah,
literally.
Yes.
Literally. But you guys want to see that? No, I don't want to see that.
I don't want to see that.
I am good. So yeah.
Okay.
So that's the quarterback position. Hey, I got a positive. I
think I know what it is.
Christian McCaffrey didn't play much, but he was electric.
Oh my God. You see it. Yes. I think that's the big takeaway. Yes, 22 snaps. He had 10 touches for 52 yards. So, like, not the biggest statistic. I mean, running the ball, he was very good. 8 carries, 38, 4.8 average.
But you see it.
I saw it. He has twitch. He has wiggle. He's run slippery. I'm just throwing out all these generic football terms that people use.
They're buzzwords.
Really smart. They're buzzwords that really don't mean anything, but people know what it means. You saw it.
Yeah.
We saw it.
Yeah.
Electric. Once that snap count goes from 22 to 44 to 50 to whatever it's going to be.
Oh, next week it's on. It's on
next week. That was the bare minimum. That was the Costco sample size to where you taste it and you say, what aisle is that in? Because I'm buying all of them.
Yeah.
That's what we got from Christian McCaffrey yesterday. You saw it. He had explosiveness through the whole, like all these generic football terms. He had it. He is an offensive weapon. That's what he is. He played running back. He played in the slot. He played wide. He did everything, and you saw it, and that is all that I needed was just to see it. I knew he was going to be limited. Did he play more snaps than I thought? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
But you saw it, and that's all that mattered.
Yeah, and Jesse, why wasn't he on third down? I just think they didn't have the full confidence that he had the grasp on the playbook. So I'm not gonna speculate on that. What I do know is that this week it's on and it's ramped up, and it's really funny. Look, 49er fans, if you want to take solace in the fact that the 49ers were in a similar position last season and they were 3-5 and dug themselves out of a hole, good. Like whatever positives you're trying to grasp onto, I like it. I'm not gonna look down on you, and a lot of people should be thinking that way. But here's what's funny about the Christian McCaffrey thing. Last year, when the 49ers were lacking explosive plays as they moved Deebo Samuel to the backfield, and that started to jumpstart that. Mm-hmm. Kind of funny how it works out. Could Christian McCaffrey be that explosive play kind of guy? And when you give Kyle a week with him game planning, I mean, he just put 158 total yards on those same Rams that he is going to play on Sunday, while he was the focal point of the Rams defense because he literally didn't throw to anybody else, while PJ Walker was their quarterback. You have to imagine that while his touches will not be anywhere near as drastic as that, because I believe he touched the ball on 12 plays in the first drive, and he had 6 or 7 touches. That's not obviously the ratio that you're looking for, but he will be more efficient. So if you're looking for positives, you see the small stuff with Christian McCaffrey. You can kind of see the vision of where it goes. And when they need a play and they can get the ball to him in space, he is still very dynamic in that way. Yeah. So at this point, I think that is probably the biggest positive you can take away from the offense at this point, is that the explosive plays that this team has been lacking might be right around the corner with the guys they just traded an entire draft class for, right? Greg, is Coach washed? Nah, Greg. No.
Thanks for the donation, Greg. I love that question. Short, sweet, to the point. Right.
No,
is Coach washed? No.
Thank you for the donation, Greg. But no, I'm gonna say no. But I will say this: Kyle Shanahan doesn't escape criticism. We are a very pro Kyle Shanahan podcast, clearly, right? But at the same time, you can't objectively look at the 49ers struggles and not push any of that blame on him. Is he above the criticism? Absolutely not. Do I want him fired? Absolutely not. Like, that is not where we are right now at this point. Again, if you want to take solace in what happened last year, I hear you. That's good. My only pushback to that would be different year, different circumstances. Yeah. I'm not ready to just say, well, they started slow last year and they figured it out. I don't like starting slow. Can we not start slow? Can we get out of the gates a little bit faster, as in 2019? Like that way, I don't want to rest on the laurels that the 49ers team in history have done this. And I see a lot of beat reporters talking about, well, Bill Walsh and Y.A. Tittle lost 4 games. I don't give a shit. That doesn't matter. That doesn't correlate to what goes on right now with this team. But if you want to take solace in that, I don't hate that idea.
Last advanced analytic I have on Christian McCaffrey, and this is an important analytic to me. Dude looks like he just belongs in a Niner jersey. He rocked it. He looked infinitely better in a Niner jersey than he ever looked in Carolina. 23 is a good number. He just looked like he belonged. He fits in a Niners uniform, and that's very important. Obviously, Spirit Red Option Podcast, wherever you get your podcast at, hard-hitting football analysis. Christian McCaffrey passes he looks good in a Niner.
Taradone, that's a shot at somebody who constantly, anytime the 49ers have struggles, tweets out, well, Bill Walsh and the 1981 49ers lost to this team. And I don't care what happened in 1981. Who gives a shit? We're in 2022. None of that correlates. If you want to talk about what this team has been able to do, you talk about, and as Mac Jones throws an interception, you want to talk about a team that you can actually correlate this to, which is last year's team.
Perfect. All right. You want to go to the receivers now?
Yeah. For sure.
We ran into another issue, Jason. 46 passes to 21 carries. Once again, maybe because they're getting blown out most of the game. George Kittle led the way, 6 receptions, 98 yards, and a touchdown. Keith, thank you for the donation. We saw an offensive genius on KC.
But nobody. All right, so
nobody was denying that.
Nobody was disputing that. I think we know.
Andy Reid's good.
And Andy Reid's the prophet, Profit, and
be careful, they're going to say you're gatekeeping.
I don't care. That was a pretty stupid tweet. And and Kyle is a supposed genius. I don't think anybody was disputing how good Andy Reid is. Like I really don't.
I think one of the biggest things I hate about the NFL history is Andy Reid getting his first Super Bowl ring, and it wasn't something we could feel good because Andy Reid's one of those football guys that like I think a lot of people like, and I think a lot of people were like, "Oh my god, like finally he gets his ring, well deserved." Niner fans, we don't get that because it had to come against us.
And you know what's funny? Here's what's funny. Andy Reid, before he got his first Super Bowl championship, obviously at the 49ers expense, was known as a guy who couldn't finish the job, wasn't good at time management.
And it's weird. One ring, that stuff happens.
And all that stuff goes away because you win one Super Bowl. Just funny how that works. And it's funny, the guy that they celebrated in 2012 that everybody's been talking about was bad at time management, couldn't finish the game. Funny how that works. And funny how everybody forgets all of these little things because Andy Reid won his Super Bowl. And he deserves all the praise. I am just saying that for a long time, many people called Andy Reid the guy who couldn't get it done. He went to five straight NFC Championship games and couldn't get it done.
But I think at the same, Kyle Shanahan tried to adapt, but then when he did, people complained that he ran Trey Lance the wrong way. So that's where we get a little lost.
My point is this: look, I am not trying to tell you that one guy is better than the other. I'm trying to tell you that there is a perception that is largely around guys, but Andy Reid's has gone away because he won a championship. Funny how that works when you have a magical quarterback. And that goes away. And the guy that everybody was in here arguing about replacing Kyle was literally the same guy. Like, did you guys forget in the 2012 Super Bowl? I hope you forgot. In the 2012 Super Bowl, the team had a delay of game penalty on the first play of the game. They constantly had issues with them getting it done at the end of games. They constantly had issues getting plays in. It's so funny to me how everyone seems to forget the revisionist history that has gone on this entire week with what you believe Jim Harbaugh is. He's kind of like Kyle Shanahan, except Kyle Shanahan had to build the team, and Jim Harbaugh took over a team that kind of was in place. It's just funny to me.
Jim Harbaugh, they called for so many delay games. Jim Harbaugh called 700 plays every snap. And it's like, well, if the safety is on the left side of the hash, you switch to this one. And they're doing like I remember in Stanford when he was really feeling himself on play call, he would do it against USC.
All right.
So the tight end would come in motion, the receiver would come across, and then the fullback would cut. And then that would all happen before the snap.
Let's go back to this too. Jim Harbaugh was the coach, right? Yeah. He had Greg Roman call plays on first and second down. He had a guy for third and short. Yeah. He had Jeep Chris in the red zone. Who in their right mind has four guys calling plays for you in different situations at this? So look, I am not trying to downplay Jim Harbaugh. What I am telling you is you guys seem to have forgotten what that was. And the reason, like, the 49ers got to the big game many times and couldn't finish and had problems. Like, it's just, we're not defending Kyle. It's just, it feels like you forgot. You forgot.
Now we're going to get yelled at for talking about things in 2015 again, but that's okay as well, Jason. It's okay. We've spent so much time on Shanahan. Let's pound through receiving because I don't know. Like, there's not much to take away from the receivers. All of them were fine. Kittle, 6 receptions, 98 yards. He gets his first touchdown. Brandon Ayuk, another solid game, 7 receptions for 82. Ray McLeod, he gets a touchdown. Samuel, 5 receptions for 42 yards. And I think part of the issue within itself is I'm mentioning too many receivers having good games, which probably means the Niners have to throw the ball quite a bit, which we've learned with this Niner team means bad things more than it means good things. So that's kind of my takeaway. Danny Gray got called for a false start and then got a deep shot, and then we never really saw him again. Doghouse, things like that. How do you take a false start on the outside as a receiver? Just watch the ball. Anyways, that's beyond the point. That's my quick thoughts on the receivers, Jason. I don't know how much you wanted to say on the receivers. That's all I had.
Look, it's not their fault that the ball's not getting there, but I do want to point out something that would be us speculating, but I do think is a little bit interesting. Hearing George Kittle back-to-back weeks talk about effort one week and talk about not getting the ball, not being able to get the ball to their playmakers. And then Brandon Ayuk saying, us only having 23 points with this amount. Frustration is building. It surely is. And it's valid. It's 100% valid. So my thing is, it's what's going to change? How does it change? And I don't want to be negative, Nancy. Just don't know if it does change because of what we know about the quarterback. And that can be comforting to some, knowing, well, they've won with him. It can be a negative for some that maybe the defenses have really, really just put the clamps down and said, you know what, man, make this guy make throws. And when Debo's in the backfield, we know what's going on. So you kind of got to hope that Christian McCaffrey is going to be that little shot in the arm for the offense going forward. Good thing there's a bye week. But there's nothing really to take away from the wide receivers in this game. I do want to talk about Jauan Jennings just a little bit.
Okay.
Dude, pick it up. Pick it up. You've been dropping passes since training camp. You are now penalizing yourself.
On special teams, too.
What exactly do you do now at this point?
Yeah.
Jauan Jennings has not taken the step that many people have. He is the guy that you look to on third down. I understand that. He wasn't just going to be fast all of a sudden. He wasn't just going to add things to his game. But he has not done a thing in this entire season at this point, man. He just hasn't. And that penalty, and this goes all the way back to that sequence that we were talking about in the red zone, at the end. That penalty is disgusting, horrible, and just a microcosm of how undisciplined this team is. This man has dropped nearly every single pass. I was there every single day at training camp, and it was almost like set your watch. Once or twice, he's dropping a pass. It happens in the games, and now he's penalizing himself. It is not just one game. It is not just one game. It is every game. Anytime the ball goes his way, it looks like it's hard for him to catch it. He's completely in his head right now. I don't know what is going on with him, but he's not taking the step. And now he is just out there hurting the team. He is just out there flat out hurting the team because he's not contributing in any way. None. I'm sorry.
That penalty on the kickoff too. Who was it Pacheco who made the return off? I can't remember what that. Pacheco makes the return.
Rutgers legend, New Brunswick, New Jersey legend Isaiah Pacheco. By the way,
he takes the return to the 49ers 48, which is already bad as it is, right? Like Patrick Mahomes already in plus territory, and Jauan Jennings hits him out of bounds to give them another.
And he's been out of bounds for 7 yards.
Yeah, no surprise. Kansas City, they scored 3 plays later.
Yeah.
And Jauan Jennings, he has made 6, 7, 14. He has 14 receptions this season. Half of them have been on third downs.
Yeah.
Like he's pretty much a third down receiver. Half of his targets, more than half of his targets have come on third downs. That's really the value he has on this team right now. And you're really like, he does have that big body. The Kendrick Bourne, the thing I always compare him to, I will always give him credit for that. He is very clutch on third downs. Outside of that, what is he doing for this offense? And that's really the concern. And if he's committing penalties, it's tough. It's tough.
Mac Jones got benched for Bailey Zappi.
Maybe
he went right down to score the touchdown.
Maybe Bailey Zappi should have been the pick at 3, guys. We ready for that combo? I don't even think he was in that same draft, but whatever. I don't care. I'm just throwing narratives out there. Jason, let's talk offensive line. We got a few questions.
Yes.
Guys, talk about how bad Trent Williams played. 2 pressure allowed per PFF. He's coming off injury. I'm going to say that's more of a fluke than a trend than anything else.
And come on, look. 2 pressures is a bad game for Trent Williams.
Yeah, that's a bad game for Trent Williams.
It's all right.
And listen, it doesn't help that one of them was a very noticeable one because of the safety. That does not help, and it puts it in the front of the people's minds. But like to say that Trent had a bad game, he had 2 sacks. Let's keep it in perspective, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes.
2 pressures is not a bad game by any stretch.
And look, okay, he gave up a pressure that allowed a safety. It's his first game back. Guys, Trent's gonna be fine. Of all the questions that I have about this team, and I have many, we all have many, he'll be fine.
He'll be fine.
He's going to be fine. I wouldn't worry about him as much. All right, say something positive. Aaron Banks is a dog. Aaron Banks is a dog. And I never had an opinion on Aaron Banks because, one, I don't understand the intricacies of offensive line play. That's what we have Brad Graham for, to ask questions about.
I think
he didn't play.
Yeah, two is how do you have an opinion on a player who never played last year?
Right, and he didn't play, so how do you know what you know about him? But, man, for all the picks that we talk about the 49ers got wrong, it's week 7. This one looks like they hit on this one, man.
Yeah, he 8 pressures on the season, but he hasn't allowed any since week 5. Pressureless against Atlanta, pressureless. And not only is he pressureless against Kansas City, but Kansas City, I think they were credited. I'm very confused how PFF does their things. To be 1,000% honest, that not the first time I've said it, not the last time. They credited the Niners, and I'm trying to find the stats. I think they credited the Niners, and I just totally lost all of it. So now I'm going to talk while I click through buttons. They credited the Niners with something like 8 pressures allowed as an offensive line. I finally got it. 7 pressures. The Niners were credited with 7 pressures. 4 by McGlinchey, which he was bad. We could say that. 2 by Williams, 1 by Spencer Burford. But on the other side of the ball, Kansas City's defense was credited with 18 pressures. So the Niners were, so I don't know where the disconnect, because I could see it being like, maybe you credit the Niners offensive line with 7 and the Chiefs had 9 because free runners. So is that implying that the Chiefs had a lot of free runners?
No, I don't know how that works out. One thing I do want to point out that we got right, and the one player that we were worried about that could really blow the game up,
Chris Jones.
Yep. And I think Andrew was bang on when he talked about how now the Chiefs are deploying him on the edge. And let's call a spade. Mike McGlinchey isn't exactly 100%. Mike McGlinchey did not have a good game. And that's it. Like, Mike McGlinchey has a thankless job, right? Because of the way he's perceived by this fan base. And let me explain. When he has a good game, nobody ever says, well, Mike McGlinchey had a great game. But when he has a bad game and those misses are magnified, he gets all the blame. I do believe that the criticism is warranted, 100%. Yes. You guys are absolutely right. But at the same time, it's like when he does have a good game, you guys never really say anything about it. And he was also coming back off of this injury. Every single person that was back in this game off of injury looked either somewhat rusty or not healthy. Everyone. Yeah. Trent, Mike, Jimmy Ward, Mooney Ward, Nick Bosa. All 5 of them. They all looked like a shell of themselves. Either getting themselves back into, or knocking the rust off, because Trent was off for way longer than all these guys were, or just straight up not healthy. And that's not an excuse. This is an NFL. They get paid millions of dollars. They're professionals. I get all that. But it does need a little bit of context to be like, thrown on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, exactly. Like Mike McGlinchey, he's always had that thing of like, he'll have a game where he allows 1 pressure and is amazing in run blocking, but that 1 pressure, he'll allow a sack because he gets completely turned around. And that was the one highlight we see, right? Yeah. And nobody talks to us. So McGlinchey, bad game. Let's let them get a little more healthier. We'll see. I'm not going to overreact to it. Jason, we've covered every position. I do want to touch just real quick on my unfair Kyle Shanahan criticism, because this is something, and it's not because of this individual game. It's kind of the trend. The 49ers had 3 field goals yesterday, okay? They opened the game with a 30-yard field goal, 4th and 3, Kansas City's 12-yard line to go up 3-0. His second field goal was on a 4th and 15 to go up 6. He hits a 50-yard field goal. I'm not going to complain about that one. 4th and 15 is very tough. His last field goal came third quarter, down 8. He makes a 4th and 7 field goal, 49-yard attempt to shrink a Kansas City lead from 8 to 5. Kansas City goes down, scores a touchdown, go 12. They don't look back. And outside of the 4th and 15, and maybe a little bit with the opening game field goal, because there's no reason to go for a 4th and 3 at the Kansas City 12 first drive of the game. At some point, Kyle Shanahan has to realize field goals aren't going to beat the Chiefs. And I would maybe like to see, as I said, I'm going to throw away the 4th and 15. I don't expect him to ever go.
Wait. Is this a go for it on 4th down rant? Go for it.
A little more.
I'm all ears. I'm going to grab my drink. I just want to sit back.
As I said, I don't want to necessarily call him out for not going for it. 4th and 3, Kansas City 12, 10-22 in the first quarter, because go up 3-0, whatever. Field goals aren't going to beat the Chiefs. Maybe go for that one. Not going to complain about it. The one that I have the biggest issue with, though, you're down 8, 7:41 to go in the third, 4th and 7, kind of fringe. You can maybe go for it, maybe not. If you don't get it, Kansas City's first drive of the half was a touchdown. Their next 3 drives were touchdowns. You make the field goal, you go down 5. Kansas City's just going to score a touchdown and go up 12, which they did. if you go for it and you do not get it, Kansas City's going to go down and score a touchdown and go up 15. Game's over. Guess what? The game was already over. Spoilers. If you go for it and get the first down, and let's say hypothetically you score a touchdown and you don't get the 2-point conversion, you're down 21-19. That means a field goal game. Kansas City maybe scores a touchdown, but now you're playing down 8 instead of down 12, which it was, right? Changes the dynamic a little bit. As I said, none of these were scream at the TV, go for it here situations. But it is a culmination of Kyle Shanahan is very conservative. He doesn't seem to like to go for fourth downs. And when he does go for fourth downs, there never seems to be rhyme or reason. At some point, Kyle Shanahan needed to concede yesterday that 3 points is less than 7 that Kansas City's putting up every drive. At some point, just put the balls on the table, and if you don't get it, you don't get it. It's okay. At least you went down trying. To me, when you're kicking a field goal down 8, 7:41 to go, it's not a full white flag, but there's a little bit of white flagness, especially considering it's the Kansas City Chiefs. Like maybe if it's the Carolina Panthers, you're down 8, you take the field goal, go down 5, you're happy. But it's Patrick Mahomes on the other side. He's going to score more touchdowns than he doesn't. As I said, I'm going to wrap it up here. I understand none of them were scream at the TV, go for it on fourth down. At some point, though, I would like to see him go for it on a 4th and 7 down 8 instead of taking the field goal. That is my unfair criticism on Kyle Shanahan yesterday, and I'll leave it at that.
I am like a proud father right now watching my young man, Andrew Pasquini, break it down. And I'll take it a step further. When you notice your defense is having problems stopping them and knowing that they can score, you have to alter certain things. I've never been prouder to be on this podcast with anyone than I am right now with Andrew Pasquini for pointing that out. That is fair criticism and very warranted. Andrew, I swear it's like watching your child grow up in front of everybody.
I do what I can.
And right there, that's what it is, man. I am so happy, Andrew. That was my favorite moment of the Sprint Right Option podcast, and we have a lot.
It's like 146 episodes.
That was incredible analysis, man.
Thank you.
I am so happy that you brought that up. I mean, look.
Yeah, and CJ makes a point. He has no issues with the field goal kick.
And that's fine.
I said, that's fine. I did, as I said, none of them were obvious go for it.
So
at some point, and I think the way I worded it, Kyle Shanahan brought field goals to a touchdown. That's how I worded it on Niners Nation.
And look, this is what I complain about in baseball, and this is what I complain about a little bit in football. Analytics for some coaches have taken over feel for the game. Feel. Do you have a grasp on what's happening in this game, not what the book tells you? Okay? Because there's a 4th down bot. Ben Baldwin has it. I implore all you guys to follow it. Yeah. And it'll tell you what the book says, what you should do. It was a toss-up on one of them, meaning it was 50-50. He could have did either, and the book would have been fine with it. But my problem in baseball and my problem in football is that it's either too much feel or too much book. And there needs to be a middle ground of analytics. Sure, that's one part of the equation, but your feel for the game, your absolute feel for the game. And that's where I believe Andrew's bang on right here. Whether you want to just go by the book and say, well, the book said kick the field goal, that's when you kick the field goal, it's when you're believing that your defense is playing well. If your defense is not playing well, toss the book out, play with a little feel. Feel, grasp the game, take a look at how your defense is playing. Andrew, I have never been more proud than I am right now. Like, this is a proud papa watching his son, his child go up and just like get it right here. Like, I am so happy for you, Andrew. Way to go, man. You really floored me with that one.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess the best way to put it is Kansas City had 6 touchdown scoring drives. All of theirs were touchdowns. The 49ers had 5 touchdown scoring drives, or 5 scoring drives, I apologize. 3 of them were field goals. The Niners lose by 21 points. Like that. Yeah. That's my thing. So yeah, as I said, like, I agree. Like, I necessarily didn't have any problems with the field goals.
Well, and Jason, sure, the defense was horrible. That said, how many of the games we win because of the absolutely, 100%. I don't think we're disputing that. But you have to know in that one game when, hey, My defense doesn't have it today.
Mhm.
I've got to do something to jumpstart this. I've got to do a little. The offense had to pick up the defense this week. The defense, I am nowhere near as concerned with as I am with the offense.
No,
The
not at all.
defense is going to be fine. The defense will be fine, especially bouncing back this week. Everybody's going to be back. Everybody's going to be a little bit more healthy. Speaking like that, I understand that 100%. But at this point, is you need to be the guys that pick up your defense because the defense is going to do the heavy lifting most of the time. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Pick your defense up. That's all. And that's it. I think you make a perfect point right here. But Andrew, this is like one of the best podcasts ever, man. I promise you.
We're at an hour already. We love it. Hey, Jason, we're wrapping up though.
3 stars.
We appreciate everybody. 3 stars, and then I want to go into one last little say something positive about the Niners, and then we'll get out of here. 3 stars, 3 stars. I am gonna go with the guy I promised myself would be my 3rd star if he didn't do anything of significance for just existing. Christian McCaffrey. He was wearing a Niners uniform. If he scored a touchdown or 2, obviously he would have been higher up on my list. 22 snaps, 52 yards, 10 touches. Christian McCaffrey for simply waking up on Sunday and putting on a 49ers uniform is my 3rd star.
My 3rd star is Christian McCaffrey, and it's because I see the vision. I see a guy who is still very dynamic. I see people who have kind of undervalued him because of injuries, which I have explained. These injuries are not correlated in any way. It's a shoulder sprain. It's an ankle sprain. It's not like it's an ACL. It's not like it's an Achilles. You can say that he's lost a step, but you can absolutely see the vision. Christian McCaffrey is my 3rd star as well.
Perfect. My number 2 star. I don't know if you heard, yesterday was National Tight Ends Day, and George Kittle celebrated with a 6-reception, 98-yard, 1 touchdown game, his first touchdown of 2022. Getting the ball in his hands is a very good thing. I think we found that out. I think the one negative he had is we found out, oh my God, he is so bad at cutting WWE style promos. Needs to get a little work
People
on
loved it.
And I think, well, yeah, because Niner fans love it. I watch wrestling. I'm a connoisseur of professional wrestling. And I think Fox did him no help by putting him in a commercial with The Miz, who is one of the WWE's better promos. I think he needs to work on his wrestling promos, but I got positivity. He's got at least 10 more years with the Niners before he has to worry about his transition to the WWE. He doesn't have to worry about that stuff for another decade. George Kittle is my number 2 star of the day.
I love it. Mine's is Aaron Banks. Aaron Banks has been the constant. If you would have told me what I would know going 7 weeks into the season about this offensive line, Aaron Banks being the best offensive lineman on this line would have nowhere near been the top at this point. Aaron Banks has been incredible. And I think my number 1 star is going to shock a lot of people, man. It really is.
So the guy who does a knuckle punt?
To both special teams kickers.
Okay.
Both of them. Robbie Gould was locked in. Sure, whatever. Cool. You want to say that Mitch Wisnowski knuckle punted? Whatever. I'll take any positives I can get. That was fine. But Mitch Wisnowski, if you're watching this, and I know you are, if you can make people muff all your punts, can you please do it every single time that you have to punt, and just not whenever you feel like it or whenever it's like a big moment? Like, I'm tired of people telling me, well, he has a punt that can spin one way, go the other way. Do it every single time. But Robbie Gould was locked in from 50 yards out. He drilled it. Mitch Wisnowski forced the missed punt. But yes, I will give it to Gould and Wisnowski. Those are my number 1 stars.
The Kansas City Chiefs were credited with 17 pressures, and they sacked 9 quarterbacks. They actually got Garoppolo 5 times and get Purdy once. You know who didn't give up a pressure or a sack? Your number 2 star, Aaron Banks. He's my number 1 star. I think on a day where there was so much negative, to see like this isn't even just taking a good performance and making it feel better because it was in the context of a bad game. This is a good performance, whether the Niners lose by 100 or the Niners win by 100. Aaron Banks, very good. No pressures allowed on 55 pass blocking opportunities. Chris Jones was all over the place. And obviously he's an edge rusher, so I just picked the best name and sounded dumb because he doesn't go through the
Chris
middle.
Jones and Frank Clark really were messing
Jones Frank Clark messing things up. Aaron Banks solid the whole game. So I am going number 1, Aaron Banks. I want to give him the credit. Jason, can I wrap up with just one final, and I'll make it as quick as I can. One final, say something positive about the 49ers.
Yeah.
The 49ers are sitting at 3-4. That's not the positive part. That's more of a negative. Close your eyes, people, because I want to list really quick the Niners' next 10 games, their last 10 games. And I want you to picture these 10 games in the context of before the season started, and then picture them in what we know through 7 weeks in the NFL. The 49ers finish up at the Rams, which, hey, I know Jim Everett's here. Hi, I love you. That's a win, guaranteed. Sharpie, book it. Niners are figuring it out. Bye week, Chargers, Cardinals, Saints, Dolphins, Buccaneers. The Saints through the Buccaneers, that's 3 straight home games. At Seattle, at Washington, at Vegas versus the Cardinals. Now, entering the season, games like the Chargers, games like maybe the Cardinals, definitely the Raiders and the Buccaneers felt like they'd be a little scarier. But now through 7 weeks, honestly, Jason, and maybe I'm blowing this out of proportion, I see 10 very winnable games for the San Francisco 49ers. And at 3-4, if they finish this stretch at 6-4, or excuse me, they go 6-4, that is a 9-8 record. That might be just good enough to make the NFC playoffs, right, Jason? Yeah. But I think they'll do better than 6-4. I think 8-2 is in the realm of possibilities here. Dare I say, can I get spicy and say 10-0? No, I won't get that hot, but I will get spicy. The San Francisco 49ers, in my opinion, will not lose a game until at least December. They're going to go through November, win every game. Put that in Sharpie. The 49ers currently sit in 8th place in the playoffs. They're right behind the Rams. As I said, they're already going to beat the Rams. They're going to own the tiebreaker over the Rams. They're 1 game behind the Seahawks. The Niners currently own the tiebreaker of the Seahawks. Yes, 3-4 does not feel great. The division is very much up for grabs, and the NFC sucks right now. The New York Giants are in a playoff spot, for God's sake. And yes, they're very good. I'll give them their credit. They're
winning games.
Good. They're winning games. The NFC is wide open, guys. Let's not get tripped up. 3-4, not great. Obviously not great. We're not even halfway through the season. And as I said, in my opinion, the Niners have obviously things can change. When they come up to Tampa Bay, that can change, and Tampa Bay can be a wagon at that point. But through 7 weeks, the Niners' remaining 10 games are very, very, very winnable. And the Niners do control a lot of their destiny. They own the tiebreaker over the Rams. They own the tiebreaker over the Seahawks. They should own the tiebreaker over the Cardinals, let's be honest. That's kind of my spiel. It doesn't feel great. I see a lot of people saying it's over. I remember a wise man by the name of Jason Aponte once told me it was over when the Niners were 3-5 last year, and they played in an NFC championship game. So, hey, I get it. It doesn't feel very positive. Once again, we are not halfway through the season, and 9 wins might make the playoffs. And once you get into playoffs, my friends, anything can happen. So that's my spiel. I wanted to end on a positive. It's definitely not over. I don't want people to think that this season's over because they lost by 21 points to the Kansas City Chiefs. Things might get easy from here on out. Who knows? As I said, things can change in December. But as I said, put it in Sharpie and come at me if I'm wrong. The Niners aren't losing a game until at least December. They're going to beat the Rams. They're going to beat the Chargers. They're going to beat the Cardinals, and they're going to beat the Saints. And then from there, let's see what happens.
4-4 into the bye feels like a win. Mm-hmm. And I do believe that Christian McCaffrey is the shot in the arm for this offense that Deebo Samuel was
saw it a little
last season. Yeah, and that was Deebo Samuel last year when he was deployed in the backfield. So Andrew Pasquini, sounds to me like you are the first star of this podcast this week.
Hey, I did my best. I tried my best. I tried my hardest. It was a great game. But when we lose, it's a we situation.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I when we win, we when we lose. Jason Aponte, as always.
Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.
Welcome, everybody.
We are live.
My name is Jason Aponte.
I am Andrew Pasquini.
We're working. That's it. We're working over here. That's it. Let's go Niners.
Let's go Niners.